we're not really aiming this at like highbrow intellectuals who might be listening thinking, what are these guys babbling on about? I think we are just trying to draw attention to the culture of reading books and how we want to cultivate that and encourage that and kind of help people who might struggle to get into it. I know that I've read quite a few serious big books over the last 10 years, and I actually found YouTube tutorials and people on YouTube giving tips of how to read these books, and I found that incredibly helpful. And you'll I think that's kind of, we're just trying to opening up this discussion and thinking about it. I would say that when I was at college at sixth form, I was quite smart. I mucked around a lot, and to be honest, I smoked weed, right? So, which is not good, and it hampered my learning. And I thought it was cool, and I should have been. I wish I'd switched on intellectually when I was younger. I wish I'd had that competitiveness in me with reading. There is a culture in. I went to a state school in London. There is a culture of. In my school, there was a culture of competing to be stupid. It was
Oh, really?
yeah, very, very, very much so. It's terrible culture. There was if you were high in sports, you did well in sports. That was great. You had some kind of social credit, but there was an awful sick culture that if you tried hard in class, you didn't get you got teased. Secretly, people would respect you for it, by the way, but it
Mm.
was a kind of culture of like it demeaned people who were kind of pushing themselves intellectually, and we would call each other, everyone would get called stiff, or that was the word at the time, which was like dweeb or geek, and there were there were obviously like dweebs and geeks in the school who were super cool in my secretly in my head. But the what I'm sort of saying is like I didn't I think for men actually, particularly, like the competition is great, and if you had around you a thriving culture of competition, of people who were kind of trying to outread each other, that would have someone like me that would have benefited from that. And I'm not pointing fingers. I'm just
Absolutely,
sort of
absolutely.
addressing like these cultural issues that are in our schools that are all over the place. And I when I
And it really matters. Go on,
no go on,
go on.
well, okay, so when I got to sixth form, I remember reading like Roddy Doyle, Dubliners. I think it's the Roddy Doyle who wrote that, right? And I liked drama. I really read all the plays in drama. I was very interested by Brecht and Chekhov and stuff. But I got sort of indoctrinated by a sort of a radical feminist Marxist teacher, who I didn't like and didn't like me. And but weirdly, I wanted to prove to her how smart I was, so I ended up studying all her theories, and probably in a way switched me on early on to like sort of more like Marxist feminist perspectives, what would later be known as something more like woke, I think probably. I was kind of I kind of understood a lot of those things because this teacher, you'd have to write your essays to kind of satisfy her, and she'd give you good marks if you said this. But I have to say, she was quite inspiring, and she was kind of horrible, but kind of made you learn, right? And there weren't teachers who were the other side, like quite classical teachers who would talk to me about like you need to read the classics or the Bible or any. There was, I don't remember anyone saying that to me. My dad probably, if anyone did, would have said that stuff to me. And yeah, I think it's like it's a real, yeah, we've got a real degraded culture really in these areas.
It matters so much, like what and who your cultural idols are. I mean, I think obviously it has to match with something in you, but it's connected to the competitiveness that you were saying as well. Like, what are your cultural aspirations?